Hi, everyone. My name is Annette Yazzie from Native American Disability Law Center. We have our webinar series, and we're now on session 2 of our webinar series. Today's topic for our presentation will be on the medicine wheels, which my colleague Hosky Benali will talk about. And I will hopefully have enough time to talk to you about what self-advocacy means. And this presentation is designed for Native Americans with disabilities. And that also includes students. And I was hoping we would have some students on here because the self-advocacy portion was, I actually designed it for the students. I work with a lot of students here at the Law Center, so I was focusing on them, but we have a treat for you. Hosky is going to talk about the medicine wheels, and this is going to be session 2 of our Native Americans with Disabilities Empowered Through Self-Advocacy. And I want to formally introduce myself in the Navajo language. Annette Yazzie Yinshia Yat E Adone Nishlini Gi E Tachi Ni Nishlin Katnisani Bashish Chin Lizadal Chi E Dashiche Ado Ashi E Dashanala Akot Ego E Dine Ista Nishlin Tota Da Ayisi Nashya. So what I said is I gave my 4 clans, and I also said that I am originally from Farmington, which is in New Mexico. At this time, I'm going to allow Hosky to introduce himself. Hosky?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, my name is Hosky Benali Jr. I'm Shiprock. I'm Navajo. Ashin the Nen Slido Szeja Jose Touchy that Edo Betani. Ashit Shado Edasanale. Satsin Eatlet, I'll say the net that. And I'm visually impaired, get retinitis pigmentosa, and I was born with that degenerative eye disease. And up to age 22, I became pretty much beyond legally blind, I would say, I guess, because I lost a lot of my vision in a matter of 2 weeks. A lot of people that have RP, they have tunnel vision. In my case, it was where I lost my peripheral vision. I mean, my center vision, only had peripheral vision for a little while. But the community government liaison with the Native American Disability Law Center, working basically what they call systems advocacy. I work closely with the Navajo government and making sure that Navajos with disabilities aren't discriminated against. Of any policies that may come from the Navajo Nation government, working with the President's office, the Tribal Council, and division directors. I'm also the president of the Navajo Nation Advisory Council on Disabilities, which is under Title 13 of the Navajo Nation Code that was established back in 1979 by the Navajo Nation Council to be the official advocacy body for Navajos with disabilities, and making policy recommendations and making sure that Navajo with disabilities, whatever the service gaps that were existing, were to be addressed. And so that's who I am. I live in Shiprock, New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Hosky. So I first want to introduce the Law Center to those of you who don't know about our Law Center. Native American Disability Law Center, we actually are protection advocacy organization, and we protect the rights of Native Americans with disabilities in the Four Corners area. We provide legal information, advice, and representation to Native Americans with disabilities in this particular service area. We also monitor facilities on the Navajo Nation, like the group home facilities, the detention centers, and we provide information to individuals at these facilities about their rights related to disabilities. And we also provide legal advocacy related to discrimination in housing, employment, education, voting, and other issues. And lastly, we provide advocacy and legal representation to Native American students with disabilities in education. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We do a lot, but oh gosh, I'm sorry, I messed up here. I can't move this slide over. Okay, there we go. So what I wanted to do is, I was hoping to gather some information from our attendees about where you're coming from. We want to know which individuals are on this webinar. We are looking for, or want to know if you're an individual with a disability, whether you're a parent, an advocate, a self-advocate, professional, or if it's none of these, let us know where you're coming from. And if you would like to leave us your contact information, if you have any questions, we'll be able to answer that if we can't get around to it. We're hoping that at the end of this presentation, you can tell us if this presentation was helpful to you and if you have any other topics that you would like us to talk about. That would be great. So I'll point this out again after our presentation ends. Now I'd like to transfer the presentation over to Mr. Benali. And Hosky, we have the first slide here is Navajo philosophy of life.
Okay, I just like to say that although these are Navajo concepts that we will be presenting today, they're pretty universal concepts that we talk about. Okay, I present these medicine wheels not only here but in different parts of the United States. I've been down to Tampa Bay, Florida, when I have some friends that live down there. And when I go down there, they set me up with some sweat lodges. We do sweat lodges down there, and we present these medicine wheels. And of course, a lot of them aren't Native American. They're all different nationalities. But I tell them that although these are Navajo concepts, they're pretty universal concepts when you look at it from the perspective of self-development and helping yourself to become a better person. And also I do some cultural teaching lectures kind of thing down there when I go down. And so it doesn't specifically mean that these are only applying to Navajo. So now I think you'll see that when we finish the webinar here. Example, the Cree Indians, they have what they call 4 H's of life, which is honesty, humility, humor, and harmony. And although that's their a medicine wheel that they have, that's pretty applicable to anybody. So now I thought we start off with the Navajo philosophy of life. Navajo philosophy of life identifies us, or what our purpose in life is and why. Okay, and it says that we are 5-fingered, earth, surface, and eternal spirits, and that our purpose in life is to seek, establish, and advocate harmony, so as to walk on the corn pollen path. And the other Native Americans intertribal circles, the corn pollen path is the same as the red road. Okay. I also do intertribal sweat lodges, and so I had a lot of interaction with different tribes. Now you look at that, and looking at that from a disabilities perspective. At one time, in 1972, when I lost a lot of my vision, and I'm an elder now, I'm 72 years old. So at that time, looking back, looking through the process that I went through, I began to seek. At first, it was very devastating to me to lose my vision. And then eventually I began to seek what's going to help me, what's going to help me overcome my disability, accept my disability, and starting to look at what kind of a future do I have. And so I basically use ceremonies, NAC ceremonies and sweat lodge ceremonies, and then Navajo traditional ceremonies. And so I began to seek that. And from a traditional standpoint, I wanted to find out why. I'm the only one in my family. I've got 4 younger brothers and 1 older sister and 3 younger sisters. So I come from a big family, but I'm the only one that has retinitis pigmentosa. Okay. And so coming from that perspective, I had a diagnostic done for me from a tribal perspective. And from a Western perspective, of course, it's retinitis pigmentosa, a degenerative eye disease. But from the traditional side, Navajos who are expecting parents are told not to hunt, not to participate in certain ceremonies, and not to fish, and not to go and attend funerals or grave sites. In my case, my dad went deer hunting, and that affected my vision. Also, my dad danced Yeviche, which is a major ceremony. And so in order to correct those, I had ceremonies on that. We're making a deer ceremony and participated in a Yeviche or night chant ceremony. And it didn't help me to get my vision back, but it helped me emotionally to know that we've had made peace with the spirits of the deer and the ceremony. And then along the way, having Native American church ceremonies, Native American church, there's use tobacco, pray with tobacco. And the road man that was conducting that ceremony for me, who's a brother of mine, he said to me, "Where's morning time?" He said, everybody's behind you. Your parents are here, and your siblings are here, your wife's here, and all these relatives that know you sitting here in a circle with you. And he said, we don't know what you want. And so here's tobacco. You're going to pray with this. And you're one that's going to have to decide what you want to do. Because you can't just go on like this. If that's the way you want to do, is go on like this. That's up to you. But what do you have? What has the Creator given you? And so I had some college behind me, 2 years of college, and that's when I lost my vision. My goal was to become a CPA. And so I thought about it, and then I said, I want to go back to college. I want to get my college degree. Because my wife and I, we just had been married maybe not even a year when I lost my vision. So I used that tobacco, and I said, I want to go back to college. I want to get a degree. Because my wife and I are on food stamps, and we have a little son that's only about a year old. And that's where I made up my mind. That's what I'm going to do. But before then, I didn't really think about that. until in a ceremonial setting. And then it came like I got cornered to the point where I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so I started moving in that direction. And Commission for the Blind of New Mexico helped me. I was a VR client. And I went back to school at Brigham Young University and got my social a degree in sociology. And so I was seeking, I was seeking a better way of life, acceptance of their disability, and being a productive citizen. But up to now, today, what I'm doing here, I sought it, I've come up on it, I've established a certain amount of harmony for myself. Now I'm advocating, okay? I established it and I'm advocating today. What I went through, the Navajo people, the elders, they say, you really don't know what you're talking about until you go through it. They say. That's the only way that you know. And so that's where I've been on that journey ever since then. I became I became a VR counselor with an Advocacy Rehabilitation, which is OSHER's now. And I was the first VR counselor in Shiprock. Then I became the deputy director for Navajo Rehabilitation Program with Mr. Elmer Guy, who's the president of Navajo Technical University now. And so I've had that experience. So with that, I walk in harmony. You know, I walk in harmony in a way in which I feel good about myself. I look back and I see how far I've come. And so that's the Navajo philosophy of life that's been put down here on Mother Earth by the holy people. Next slide. Okay.
We have Circle of Life.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Circle of Life, as Navajo people and other Indian tribes, as I travel, they do have some similar beliefs or similar concepts. But in a Navajo way, they say we born from the east direction. When you look at a map from a Western perspective, the north is always up on top, north direction. But in the indigenous way, the east is always on top. Then you go south to your right, bottom is the west, and then to your left is the north direction. And now there's that circle where you go in a clockwise motion. The sun comes up in the east, and goes to the south, and then the west, and then nightfall. And so that's the way we set up. It's set up where you're born from the east. When you reach 25 or 26, you're a young adult, you're an adult. And then when you reach the middle, in the west direction, you're 51 years of age. Then you go to the north and that's 75, 76 years of age. And then you go back into 102 years of age. That's a full lifetime according to Navajos. You have 4 generations coming behind you. And so you look at that, and in my case, being a disability advocate, I look back and I see these young people, 0 to 25, just going to that south direction, and having a disability and their families. And so, and that's why I advocate for them with the Navajo Nation government, because I see the need. And then you see those that from 26 to 51 adults that are still struggling with their disabilities. And then up into the elderly age, the north direction, that's where I'm headed. Another 3 years, I'll be there. But then when you go back into the east, you came into this world as an infant, as a baby, they say. And so you, when you reach 102, they say, you go back into that baby state. You go into a state where you have to be taken care of just like a baby. They probably had to be fed, clothed, being taken care of, being looked after. So you make that full circle. And so you can see, you can gauge for yourself, where are you at in this life cycle? And how far do you have to go? And then you look back and you see how far you have come and what you have experienced in life. So that's the circle of life that we have. So our goal is 102 years of age. Okay, so that's the circle of life that we and I tell the young people, you still have all this way to go. You can go to the south, to the west, north, and then back into the east direction. But so you have all this time to improve yourself, accept your disability, and to be able to make something of yourself. And so that's a cycle that we show them. And then next slide.
Okay, we have holistic harmony,
Pardon?
medicine wheel.
Okay, we did the circle of life. Okay, I've got it on my tape recorder. Okay, holistic harmony, or balanced harmony. Okay, that's what we strive for. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel like we're a worthwhile individual, and feel that we can overcome life challenges. So we're four-dimensional beings, and you can use this as a means of self-inventory. We have our spiritual being. We have our emotional side. We have our mental side, and we have our physical side, who we are. The first thing that our young people, they say, I didn't ask to be born into this world. And a lot of young people say that, but that's not true. Our elders tell us that we made an agreement with the Creator to come into this world. We made an agreement of how we're going to journey here on this Mother Earth and what our purpose in life is going to be. It's just not that we were just born. We made that choice, they say. Creator always gives us choice. And that's what disability should be about too, here on Mother Earth, making choices. But everything, I tell them, everything comes from within. That Navajo concept, everything comes from inside of you, your heart and your mind. And you have this self-sacredness about you. Remember, Navajo, they say, a deep self-love for oneself, that self-sacredness. It's not a term of being vain, but just having that acceptance of who you are. Okay? And I struggled with that, okay? That self-sacredness. People talk to me, people encourage me, but I was angry. I had lost faith. I had lost that self-sacredness about who I am. And it just goes through that. I guess it's a traumatic experience that I went through. And I didn't have a self-awareness. I thought, to be aware of yourself, to be aware of how you impact your surroundings, how you impact people around you, and also how you yourself Do you have moral values? Do you have self-accountability? Do you know that this is happening to you, that how you're affecting your own self in a way in which in a way in which I guess it's just that we go through this, people go through this stage, okay? I don't think it's only people with disabilities, but people in general, when they come up on a traumatic experience and they react to it in certain ways. But the thing that I learned out of that was that according to, there's blessing way stories, and that ties back to early dawn boy and early dawn girl. And on the Law Center website, I tell that story. It's a video that you can take a look at, and look at from people who don't have a disability or parents or professionals. They are early dawn boy and early dawn girl, according to this story. They are there to help people with disabilities. I could tell the story, but it's going to take a little while. So just go to that website and look at it. We also have on the website video about the Hopi concept of disabilities. That's being told on that. So your spiritual side is that part of who you really are. It's not, when we look at spirituality from a Native perspective, it's not faith, or it's not religion. It's what do you know? How have you been taught? And how are you going to use that to move forward, although you have a disability? And those teachings, that's what helped me understand about who I was and who I really was, and that I have a disability, yes, but what are those things that I have to move ahead? And so the next one, you have your spiritual being, and then you have your emotion side of you, okay? Your self-image. How does a person with a disability look at themselves? Well, for myself, I'm visually impaired. I just lost my vision, and I'm at a hopeless state. How am I going to even do anything when I can't see? I can't even read. I can't drive. I can't tell people's faces. And so when I was younger, I was pretty athletic. I loved to play basketball, football, baseball, softball, like to shoot pool, but I couldn't do that anymore. And it really hurt my self-image. And so I had to start looking at that. And my inner feelings was that, I just didn't know what to do. Isolation. I isolated myself a lot. And I think a lot of young people and people with disabilities do that. Okay. There's a thing that really hurts people with disabilities, especially our youth. It's when people are older people, parents, professional people, are fraternalistic. Now, what does fraternalistic mean? Fraternalistic means that I am your parent and I know what's best for you. I am your special ed teacher and I know what's best for you. that paternalistic idea that people use, even in social services. I'm your social worker, but so I know what's best for you. And we have to be careful about that, because what we're doing is taking away from that person with a disability their inner feelings are being affected. We're taking away their ability to be able to tell us what they want. And they become dependent on us for that. And so we take away their self-confidence. And when we take away their self-confidence, then they become very stagnated. Okay. That's what happened to me. Everybody thought was what's the best for me, what I should do. Everybody had their opinion, but nobody even asked me. If I look back, what do you want? Until that ceremony, when that roadman, my brother, said, what are you going to do? What do you want? And so in life, you know, we say, in Navajo, it says, I'm having a hard time. Things are difficult. You know, to me, hardship is something, if you look at it emotionally, from that perspective, it's hard, it's difficult. It seems like it's something that can never be overcome. Now you put it in a different light. A challenge has been put before me. And this is what helped me. When somebody explained to me, yes, you might think you're having a hard time. Yes, things are difficult maybe, but look at it from this perspective. You have a challenge before you. That challenge is for you to overcome. When they put it in that perspective of challenge, then it's something that I looked at as, well, I can overcome this. It's a challenge. I'm going to overcome it. I'm not going to say it's hard. I'm not going to say it's difficult, because it's the mindset. Once you say that you get stuck in that mindset. So in life today, you know, there's many challenges in life that are going to be put before us. But if we look at it from that perspective, it's something that we can deal with, something we can overcome. Again, and able to challenge ourselves, we seek again. We continually seek, because life challenges are always going to be there. Something's going to come along again, even those without a disability. You know, some of them go into depression. Some of them go to the point where they just give up, like substance abuse or drug usage, things like that. So we put it to our young people, and us as people with disabilities, think about it as a challenge. If we can overcome it, it can be overcome. And then you go your mental side, okay? Your spiritual is in the east. Your emotions are in the south, and your mental's in the west. Your mental being. Now, when we get, and like I explained earlier, my mental outlook was, there's no way I can't do anything. But when I look forward again, and I looked at that and used that tobacco to look forward again, then things began to open up for me. I decided that. Then I started thinking about, how am I going to do this? There's a medicine we'll call thinking, planning, living, and resilience. That's another Navajo. There are 4 hogans. Okay? So I began to think, okay, I want to go back to college. I want to get a degree. So how am I going to do it? And so I began to go. I went to Commission for the Blind in New Mexico as a starter. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll help you. And then I applied to BYU for to go to school there. Moving in that direction, okay, thinking I can do it. I can do it again. I'm gonna not be able to read, but I'm gonna find a way. So I thought about it. Then I planned it. This is what I need to do. And it's gonna cost money, it's gonna cost this, gonna cost that. That's what it's gonna take. And then after that, then I put it into action. I got to accept it into BYU, not knowing how I'm going to do it. Just knowing only that Commission for the Blind was going to pay my wife to read to me and maybe buy some books for me. So I went on that journey. I made up my mind. That's what I want. Okay. And so my mom went back to the paternalistic of things. She didn't want me to go. She said, no, stay here. I'll take care of you and your family. And I said, no, we got to go. Mom, we got to go. And so we left in the evening time. You know, it was in January and it was snowing. And we went all the way to Moab. We spent the night, then we went to Provo, Utah. And it was snowing all the way. I had a brother that was going to school at BYU, so we moved in with him. And I began to look. And that prayer and that thought and moving in that direction, BYU said, we'll pay your tuition. I had Navajo tribal scholarship before I lost my vision. I told them that I lost that scholarship, so they helped me reapply it, and I got it. And then my dad was a veteran. And so the veterans started paying me to go to school. And then they were paying my wife to read to me. And that time, this was in 1975. And what happened was that everything fell into place. As a college student at that time, my wife and I we had enough income, enough money coming in from different sources. We were probably getting $3,000 a year. I mean, not a year, a month. That was unheard of at that time. And then after that, so the outcome, the resilience part of it is what the outcome is. That's what happened. And it would have never happened to me and my family if I didn't take that chance. And then I graduated, and then I built up on that again. You go into that circle, you think, you plan, you apply, you have outcome. If there's something that didn't come out the way you want it, it's not a failure. It's okay. What do I need to do different next time? Then you come back in each direction and you rethink it. Okay, that's what our young people need to learn. There's no such thing as failure. You just rethink it, replan it, reapply it, and then you see outcome again. It's like building a whole gun, log after log. So that's what I learned out of that. Looking back, and I came up on that medicine wheel, I said, yeah. I went from the whole gun of thinking, whole gun of planning, to the whole gun of application or living, making it happen, putting into action, and then whole gun of resilience. Because getting that degree gave me resilience. It gave me strength. It gave me a sense of accomplishment. So that medicine will help me in that way. And so there's a saying that I want to share with you. When you're looking ahead and people don't think there's a future for them. And that saying is, my future is based on my knowledge of the past. and the beauty of the present. My future is based on my knowledge of the past and the beauty of the present. You know now what you went through. And at any time, you can change that if you decide to do that. The beauty of the present means at this moment, no matter what happened back then, now you know that's your knowledge, that's your wisdom, that's your truth. Now you have that. You can move forward with that. And so your mental side, you think about that. You know, very, very applicable for self-advocacy. Sharing those kind of, I guess you would say, slogans or something that somebody can understand and put into that, into their mindset and into their emotional part. Now, it's not easy, and I'm not saying it's easy, but if you expose a person with a disability or anybody, expose them to something, when the time comes, I guarantee you they're going to use it. Maybe they're not ready right now, but they say a lot of our young people don't even know about our ceremonies. But if we expose them to our ceremonies and we say, well, they don't understand, they don't care. But if we don't expose them now, while they're young, about prayer and song, ceremony, even Christianity, somewhere down the line, they're going to come up on a time when they're going to change. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, this is what I was exposed to. This is what I was taught to about. Then they're going to put it into action for themselves. I've seen that happen time and time and time again. So our young people, when they get a family, then you can see that they begin to think that way about life. And then your physical being. As people with disabilities, we all have medical needs. In some cases, we have medication given to us. But even then, I always tell people, the Creator gave us spirituality, our ceremonies, and the Creator also gave us a medical system to take care of ourselves. The Creator made all that possible. The knowledge in your medical system, the knowledge in therapeutic counseling, and whatever kind of therapy that you need, that all comes from the Creator. And we need it. We need to be spiritual and use our ceremonies, but also couple that Western approaches to meet our medical needs. Okay. And that's something that's very true that we all need to think about and not pick it apart, but encourage somebody that's on medication to continue that, because it's going to help them. And then exercise, of course. A lot of us, we don't exercise, and I was guilty of that. Now I take the treadmill every morning. Why? Because I'm diabetic. That's where I'm at. So I had to exercise. My mom was diabetic, and our family diabetes runs. And so I was diagnosed as borderline diabetic. But every morning, 7 o'clock, I work from home now, so at 7 o'clock, I get on the treadmill for about 30 minutes every day. And before that, when I used to go work in the Farmington office, I was on a treadmill at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then get ready Then the secretary would pick me up that lives not too far from here or where I live and pick me up. And so that exercise did me a lot of good and still doing me a lot of good. And so we need to exercise ourselves, whatever it takes. You know, there's different ways and get that professional opinion about how we should be exercising. Dieting, of course, what do we eat? In my cases, Pepsi did me in. So the doctor told me I'm going to hang the sign around your neck and say, no more Pepsi. Now I drink Pepsi Zero, so I'm back to it, so I'm okay again. Okay, so with that, you can do, or anybody can do, looking back and do self-inventory. Okay, where am I at spiritually? What's my attitudes? What's my behaviors? Am I still angry about my disability? From an emotional standpoint, how do I feel about myself? Am I confident in myself? What's my self-image? How do I look at myself? What's my inner feelings? Where am I at with this? And in my case, my spirituality was way down. My emotions, I was depressed. Mentally, I thought there was no future. And physically, I began to use alcohol. And I was destroying myself. And all those 4 areas. So holistic healing or balance harmony means that in all of those 4 areas, your spiritual side, your emotional, mental, and physical, they're all in harmony. When they're all in harmony with each other, then you're experiencing balance harmony. Okay. But my loss of vision affected all 4 of those areas. And I had to take back, you know, when I look back now, I see where I got way out of harmony with myself. And that's from within myself. Okay. They say we're our own medicine man, we're our own medicine lady. Healing comes from within. Okay. Healing comes from within. There's a Navajo short story that says the holy people in the east, south, west, and north, one day they got together and they were talking about harmony, happiness. And they were saying that we need to have the 5-fingered people, the 2-leggeds, experience happiness. But we don't want them just to get it right then and there, but we want them to seek it. We want them to look for it. And so we need to put it in a place where it's going to be difficult. So one of them said, let's put it at the bottom of the ocean. And the other one said, no, technology is going to take them there. Another one said, let's put it on top of the highest mountain. They said, no, technology is going to take them there in the future. And they were talking about it. And then one, he stood up and said, you know what we're going to do? He said, that harmony, that balance, harmony, that happiness, that serenity, we're going to put it inside of them. Put it inside their heart, into their mind, because that's the last place they're going to live. And it's true. It all comes from there. We're self-healers. Once we make up our mind, a sense of direction, we meet these challenges, then from there, then we can begin to look at from inside ourselves. From now I need to do it. Now there's 4 gifts. Where am I? How am I at time-wise? Annette?
The next slide is spiritual, which you've already gone over.
I went to spiritual, I went to mental, I went to
Physical.
physical. Now I'm way down on
Four
full list,
gifts.
4 gifts. Yeah. So
Now the
time wise, where am I at?
oh, it's now straight. It's 4:58 your time.
Okay. Um, there's another medicine wheel, 4 gifts of life, which talks about your voice, your hands, your footprint, and your shadow. All of us have that. Okay. Now your voice, when we were born into this world, we had our first breath of air and we had our first cry. And the elders say that that first cry was heard by the quality of your cry, which becomes the quality of your voice, is heard by Mother Earth and Father Sky and the Holy Ones in the 4 directions. So you have that unique voice. And when we go to ceremony, that's why we introduce ourselves, our clan, what our 4 clans are. If we have a spiritual name or Navajo name, we also provide that. And they say that that's to be re-acknowledged by the spiritual beings because of our first cry. And that first cry, that voice became our manner of speech, our ability to pray with and to sing. And so it's that sacred. And they say you take care of your voice and your inner voice. You know, we're all like that. We think and see kiss. We think about things. And a lot of times, us with disabilities, that's the way I was. I had an inner voice, and the inner voice was saying, there's no hope. I can't drive. I can't read. What am I going to do? My inner voice was telling me that. Okay. And the more you have your thought process at this and sahakis, a lot of that self-thought and not sharing it or talking about it, you start to assume. We begin to assume things. They might not be true, but because we're not getting it out and checking it out with somebody else, we're assuming that. Okay. In my case, I assumed that my wife was probably going to leave me, and I didn't ask her. But she stayed there. She stayed there. And then until one day I asked her, I said, you know, me being visually impaired now, I can't take care of you. So she said, that's okay. It's okay. I'm staying with you. I made that assumption that she's going to leave. And that put me more into depression. That put me in another state of hopelessness. Okay. So after all that, on April the 8th, we'll be married 50 years. But that assumption is too much inner thinking, not checking it out. You know, our young people need to know that. They need to. That's where advocacy comes in, to express yourself. And expressing your feelings, okay? Have them express their feelings. And I think one of the biggest things that we used to work with 2 Gray Hills High School out of Tuba City, and talking circles with young people or talking circles with adults. Very therapeutic. The talking circle came out of this Sundance ceremony. Sundance ceremony then has the sweat lodge. And out of the sweat lodge came the talking circle. And the talking circle, there's no judgment. Everybody, you pass around a feather or you pass some object around that people honor. and they express themselves. Okay, today we want to know what your feelings are. And people express that with no judgment from anybody else. Nobody else says anything. You just express it. And it goes around a circle. And when it does that, then after that, then the feelings are all expressed. And then everybody knows where they're at. Somebody next to you may understand you, what you're going through, and offer some suggestions. Very powerful. You can try that sometime. And that's what happens in the sweat lodge. I ran a treatment center at one time for adolescents. It was called Our Youth, Our Future Incorporated here in Shiprock. And we integrated Western therapy with cultural practice. And it was a Native American concept program. And we did sweat lodges with youth, did sweat lodges with the male and the female, separate sweat lodges. When they left treatment, we did exit interviews. We asked them, what's the biggest thing that helped you? And they said, the sweat lodge. I can express myself in there. I felt safe in there. And I got my feelings out in there. Some of them never been to a sweat lodge before. Some of them never even prayed before. And so I think in some settings, even a family can do that. Because sometimes a family does not, what they call boundary violations. When we did that in the treatment center, we showed them, we used that, what I was saying earlier, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. And we're talking about boundary violations. And from a spiritual standpoint, a lot of times the young people say, you know, my parents forced their religion on me. But so I didn't want to go to church. But here, I want them to know that I want to go to the sweat lodge. I want to drum, I want to sing. And then on top of that, emotionally, this is how I was violating my boundaries, emotional boundaries were violated. Mentally, this is how my boundaries were violated. They told me you'll never make anything yourself, you just like this, like that. And then physical boundaries, of course, some abuse. Families that went through that never knew that, how they were impacting their youth or impacting each other's family as family members. Very powerful tool that we put together. And so talking circles is something that positive words, we tell the young people, what's your dominant thought and what's your dominant words? If you think positive at all times, you can draw good things to you. If you think negative, you can draw negative things to you. It's in your hands. It's really up to you how you're going to do that with your voice. What do you say? My brother Steve Darden called it mazel. He says, marble. It goes around in a circle, put it out there, it comes back to you. So be careful, he said. With the disabilities, it's the same way. Be careful what you say to you about yourself. In the Navajo way, what's the ultimate harmony? You know, walking in beauty, see. But the one there is, there'll be beauty all around me and with the words I speak. There'll be beauty all around me with the words I speak. When we reach a certain part of harmony, then our voice reflects it. Then we advocate harmony. Then we help others with that again. Okay, now your hands. We all have fingerprints, right? That's our uniqueness. We call it wind swirls. You're that special for being your only person in this world with those wind swirls. Nobody else. That's how sacred you are. That's how sacred the Creator made you. But wherever you go in life, whatever you do and whatever you touch, you're going to put your windswell. Okay. If you touch good things going to come to you. If you do something and touch something that's not good for you, bad things are going to come to you. And your wind swirls, you have to watch it. Check yourself. And they say that, and what I learned was that with anger, you roll up your fist, right? You want to hurt somebody. But I learned that to this day, and I use that, and I thought about it, and that teaching was given to me. When you make a fist, you have 4 reaches on your knuckles. Again, that goes back to thinking, planning, living, resilience. Those 4 things. And the 4 sacred mountains, they're all tied to that. So what I started doing and teaching young people is roll up your fists and squeeze your hand and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to overcome my challenges, and squeeze your fists like that. And feel it, put it in yourself with that, with your roll up fist. So that way you're challenging. You're not hitting anybody, but you're challenging yourself. You're expressing that, hey, I can do it. And like I said, everybody's got to have a sense of direction. Once you move in a direction, it's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. You might try it 2 or 3 times, but you'll get there. Perseverance. You have to go and try it. Our young people, we tell them that, people with disabilities, keep going, keep trying. I know people who are wheelchair users, they've lost a lot of their strength in their arms and their fingers and their hands. Can't even open a door, can't even write their name. But they've come to accept their disability. And they still try to write their name, even though they can't hold a pen or a pencil. They still will try to open the doors, whatever way they can do for themselves. They don't say, hey, look at me, I'm helpless. They've got that somehow, that's spirit, fighting spirit within themselves, and they're very successful people. That's what it takes. That's what it's going to take. And I have friends like that. I have a couple of ladies on the Native American Disability Law Center board who are in wheelchairs. One of them, her name's Doris Dennison, and the Navajo legislation of abuse and neglect, because she went through all that. They named that law after her because of what she went through. She expressed it right on the council floor. This is what I went through. I was in a car accident. And I got a spinal cord injury. Now I'm a wheelchair user. My husband left me. Now look where I'm at. She expressed all that based on her. But she said on the council floor, the Navajo Tribal Council passed the abuse and neglect law needed with the Navajo Nation to protect people with disabilities against abuse, neglect, abandonment, and exploitation. What she went through. She went through all that, and she got to the point where she just accepted it, moved on, doing that because of what she went through. They named that law after her. So some of you might know her, Doris Dennison. Now your footprints. Remember, we're talking about that circle of life. And the first time you took your footstep as an infant up to now, your footprints tells your story. Yeah, we can look back, like myself, I can look back at my footprints, see where I've been. There's some places that I'm proud of, and there's other places that I'm not very proud of. But that footprints tells my story. And it never can be erased, but it can be corrected, okay? There's a saying, your past, the adversities of the past can become your medicine bundle for the future. The adversities of the past becomes your medicine bundle for the future. In other words, what you experience, now you know, you're aware, have some self-awareness, and just like a medicine bundle, and that medicine bundle's inside of you, inside your heart. When it be genius, you're putting it down into your medicine bundle inside of you. That's your knowledge, that's your wisdom, that's your truth. That's what's going to help you, give you strength, spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical strength. Okay. And your footprints tell that and provides that for you. And then you begin to move forward, okay? I always tell people who come to my ceremonies or looking, maybe they're stagnated, something has happened to them, a challenge has been put before them, and they don't feel like they can move on. But in the substance abuse field, they say day at a time. Same way here, a day at a time. And pretty soon, next year, think about next year, where you're going to be at. Where do you want to be at? You have a disability. What are your wants? We need to hear you. We need you to express that, to tell us. That way we can help you. But once you express that, you going to move in that direction. Okay. As Native people, we are artists, but it doesn't mean you're a painter, doesn't mean you're a sculptor, it doesn't mean that you do a lot of beautiful artwork. That's part of it. But visualization, you say, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? Maybe we're talking to a young man who's a sophomore or junior in high school, or a young lady. And they say, your goal, my goal now is to get out of high school, graduate from high school, and to do something productive. Okay. All right. Visualize yourself walking across that stage and having that diploma put in your hand. But not only visualize it, but feel it. What is it going to feel like when they put that in your hand? And do you know what you're going to do with it? We create in our mind, just like an artist does. And we add the feeling to it. We see a beautiful picture. And then there's an energy that comes up with that. That gives us a certain kind of feeling. Okay. Same way within ourselves. Again, it comes from within. That's how advocacy is all about, from within. People helping you, but you need to be expressing that. You need to be helping yourself also. Okay. And by doing that, you visualize and you get into that feeling. It's going to happen. No doubt about it. I've seen it happen time and time again. So the next one is your shadow. The decisions that we make today is going to dictate our shadow 75, 76 years old when we get to that north direction. What do we do today? How do we take care of ourselves? What sense of direction do we have? Okay. Our shadow is a reflection of who we are. Very sacred in the Navajo, we say that it's a special spirit. And they say that if there's nobody else around, there's nobody to talk to, you can sit down and turn to your shadow and talk to your shadow. You can even cry with your shadow. The shadow is going to cry with you. Or if you're happy, the shadow is going to laugh with you. It's you. So when you're at old age, you want your shadow to be standing up straight. You want your shadow to be healthy. Even you might be a wheelchair user. Still, you look at your shadow and you see your happiness with your shadow, your accomplishments that you have made in life. They also say your shadow, you honor it in Navajo. When you go to sleep at night, the shadow leaves you. And it goes in the 4 directions and advocates for you, spiritually advocates for you, asking for spiritual blessings, for emotional blessings, for mental blessings, for physical blessings. It knows your needs and wants, they say. And that's why the Navajos, they say, Achao. Achao is something that we don't look at. It's there for us. And so we should reflect a healthy lifestyle that we have come up on. So just thinking about those things, you know, it's exposing it to somebody with a disability, exposing it to their parents, or even a service provider to understand a little bit more about disability. The exposing part of it is there. It helps. And people sometimes they say, well, you don't care. He doesn't want to do anything. But the more we talk about it, we can affect the mind, we can affect emotions, we can affect the mental part of a person. We don't give up. We don't give up on people. That's me, that's the way I am. I don't give up on people. All the way, no matter what they go through. Being an NAC road man, being a Sweat Lodge leader, giving a lot of presentations, cultural presentations, and being a Navajo diagnostician, and then having the education, and then having a disability. If I didn't have this disability, I wouldn't know what it's like. I wouldn't be sharing this, I don't think. I don't know where I would be. So I always say that my disability is my blessing. I don't know where I would be without this. With my wife supporting me, people supporting me, people coming to Sweat Lodge with me, sitting in NAC circle, people coming over and talking. That's who I am. So I just wanted to share this today. And there are other medicine wheels. So I just want to thank all of you for listening. And maybe you can share this with others too. So that's all I have in it.
Thank you, Hosky. I also wanted to talk a little bit about self-advocacy, which Hosky already mentioned a lot of concepts on self-advocacy. And what I wanted to share with, I was hoping we would have some students on here, or we're going to make this available on our website, so it still would apply. But I wanted to give some information about what self-advocacy is and what it means. So as you can see the slide, I'm not going to read through it, but I wanted to ask the attendees a question. what they think self-advocacy is. And this question I actually would ask students that I used to present with, and I just if you want to put your answer in the chat box of what you learned here from Hosky about what self-advocacy means. The first question is, first answer is A, speaking for your rights, making informed decisions. B is having someone make decisions for you. And C, I don't know what self-advocacy is. And D, I never heard of the word self-advocacy. So if you could just put your answers in the chat box and tell us what you think self-advocacy means. Okay. All right, it looks like everybody's getting the right answer here. Yes. Okay, thank you guys. It does look like everyone picked the first correct answer, which is A, speaking for your rights and making informed decisions. Also, I wanted to mention related to self-advocacy, if you break down the word actually into self-advocacy in 2 words and think about it more, focus on the word self in the word self-advocacy. The self is really getting to know yourself, and those are your personal interests, what makes you individual, and what your character is, and what your desires, what you like, what you want to happen, and your personal decisions and choices. So really it's about getting to know yourself and what you like and what your needs are. The second part of advocacy is really about the activity, the action of being of support or defending a particular cause. And it's an activity it could be by one person, yourself, or a group of people, where you're all aiming for some type of goal and to change something. So I think about self-advocacy of 2 words. Really, that is your realizing yourself and also putting into action what you support or defend in a specific cause. I know we're pressed for time here, so I'm sort of rushing through this. The last thing I wanted to point out is self-advocacy. Here's a few definitions of what it means. It is really learning how to speak up for yourself, making your own decisions about your own life. A lot of these bullet points, Hosky has already pointed out, knowing your rights and responsibilities, and learning how to get information so that you can understand things that interest you. So that is what self-advocacy means, and it could be other, there could be other bullet points on here, but that gives you the key points of what it is. Why is it important why is self-advocacy important is to have the knowledge needed to succeed in whatever you do, whether that's employment or going to school or looking for any type of services provided to individuals with disabilities. And really the chance to participate in your community about your life. I know we're pressed for time, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the last slide here and point out here, there are ways to contact our law center. If you wish to contact us, here's our phone number. We did list it. And we also have a Facebook page along with, we have our website where you will find this video and other videos. And this is session 2 of our web series. So there will be 7 more sessions related to really what we're looking for is services for people with disabilities. So look out for that. And right now I'm going to turn this recording off to allow if anyone has any questions. So I'm going to Stop recording here.